All right.
Perfect. Perfect. All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today of our discussion as we go over VA risk, a number of different compliance items. VA supervisory visits and surveys, SAA supervisory visits, compliance surveys from a number of different entities. So thank you very much for joining us. I still see folks are trickling in and letting us know in the chat where they're coming from and where they're joining us from today. I just want to start us out by again saying thank you and greetings and welcome to today's webinar brought to you by Elevate Vets. My name is Joshua Ryder. I'm the executive director for the Center for Adult and Veteran Services at Kent State University. I'm gonna get into a little bit more of that in a bit as I'm one of your co-presenters here, and I'm also the chair of the Elevate Vets Advisory Board. Before we introduce ourselves, I want to take a few minutes to lay down a couple ground rules and just kind of give you some backdrop here. Talk about Elevate Vets for a second. Elevate, and we'll drop the link in the chat for you, as an organization created by Veterans Education Success and made possible through a generous donation from the ECMC Foundation. A link to VES will also be placed in the chat. The sole purpose of Elevate Vets is to provide content and information to higher education administrators and professionals, like the content being delivered today, who serve our military-connected students. The idea is if we get better, know more, have more tools at our disposal, we will be better supporting these students and making their time at our educational institutions productive and their path to graduation, whatever their goals might be, much smoother. Content like that's about to be delivered today as an example. Housekeeping item and ground rules. Cameras and mics are going to remain off. However, we do want to hear from you. So drop those questions in the Q&A function, and we will get to those at the end of the presentation. We hope to have a good amount of Q&A with this because this is just how this works. It's the best way to learn this material, and I think Nicole will agree, is just by asking questions about it, and unfortunately or fortunately doing it. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But this session is being recorded. And after our time together today, it'll be sent out sometime early next week. So before we share any of our slides here, I just want to kick it over to Nicole to kind of introduce herself and talk about her college and what her role is and her number of students maybe that you certify there on a given basis.
Okay. Hi, I'm Nicole Foster. I am the Director of Military and Veteran Student Success at Ross College. We have 48 campuses, and I am the sole SCO for all 48. So usually I certify anywhere from 80 to 100 students. We are on a rotating enrollment, so it changes monthly, but that's about what my average is monthly, give or take some. I also do all of the auditing for all 48 campuses.
Wow, and that's impressive. That's impressive. Every time I hear that number, I'm just blown away by it. And so this is absolutely one of your subject matter experts you can learn from today. Kent State University certifies about 1,200 unique students every year, about 800 a semester, and we're a large four-year public tier one research located in Northeast Ohio. Have about 21,000 students at our main campus, and we have 7 branch campuses that cover the entirety of Northeast Ohio, the whole corner. So we are responsible. We have centralized certification, so we are responsible for all of the reviews and visits and audits and surveys for all of those, in addition to certification. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump into sharing our presentation today with you. There we go. All right. Is that up for us, Nicole? There we got visual.
Yeah, I can see it.
Perfect. Well, this is us. That's Nicole and Joshua. That's us. Our goals for today, we're going to discuss SAA supervisory visits. We're going to discuss SAA risk-based and total risk-based reviews. Those are different, but they're sort of the same. One has a different lead time than the other. overview of VA compliance surveys, overview of St. George compliance surveys. They're different, believe it or not. There are slight differences there in how they conduct those. And although the lists look the same, there are some differences. And we're also going to share best practices and lessons learned. And you know, throughout this conversation together today, you're going to see a lot of information, a lot of things. These slides are going to be very busy, but we're going to condense that down to you. Talk about whom you need to get to the table, whom you need to discuss this with, how you prepare, all these things. And we want to present you with the information if you've never had one of these, so it's not shocking when it happens. And I might use the term, I've done this for a long time. I might use the term audit interchangeably, but however, the preferred nomenclature for these folks is surveys or reviews. So surveys or reviews is the language they will use when they contact you. So I'm just going to kind of get rolling and keep it going here and move right into maybe I will. Okay.
It's animated, sorry.
It is animated, is it not? It is animated. I like it. So I almost passed out at my terminal right there, but I'm with you. So overview of what to expect for an SAA supervisory visit. To give you a piece of history about this, SAA supervisory visits are one of the oldest reviews that institutions might have. They're going to look at a very small amount of students compared to some of the other samples that you're going to look at. They're going to look at a number of those different items that you're going to see there listed, and I'm going to touch on a couple of those. But really, the purpose of an SAA supervisory visit is a touch base from your SAA. It can feel a lot like an audit or a review when they're there, because they're going to ask for, a bunch of different things from you. Okay. But the SAA is your friend. I mean, please remember that. They are there to help you. They are there to provide. These should be educational in nature, right? They're there for you to ask questions. They are there to look at some files. And if there's something that's going on that maybe isn't where it needs to be, to provide you education on that topic. So how that can be changed, kind of moving forward. So these are, yes, absolutely. It is a type of review. You're going to have folks on your campus, 1 to 2 folks from the SAA, depending upon the sample size. But typically it's small. It's about 3 students, and they're going to look at your applications, some enrollment agreements, all these different things. Some of the things you're going to see later, your type of your unofficial transcripts, those kind of things, the financial ledgers. They're going to want to see all those things that we're going to talk about moving forward. The shopping sheet, we're going to discuss that, of course, more in detail. Degree audit sheets, unsatisfactory progress documentation, if that's applicable, if you're a type of institution that does. And again, there's a difference here. I would like to make a real note here when they talk about satisfactory unsatisfactory progress. This is different than SAP for my financial aid professionals in the room, for standards of academic progress, which is percentage of completion, GPA, and total time towards degree, right? I was in financial aid for several years, and many of my colleagues were. So those are different things. Unsatisfactory progress here indicates academic dismissals. They're going to want to see if there were probations. Granted, we don't have to submit those sheets anymore. We don't have to submit those sheets anymore that to the VA that show academic, these kind of academic dings to a student's account being placed on probation, et cetera. But they're going to want to see those letters if applicable. Attendance reports, if applicable. That's not everybody here. That's kind of maybe going to fall more outside of IHLs and maybe into some more of our NCD schools, right? Kind of some of those folks. And then related student drops, withdrawal slips, mitigating circumstances, and parent institution letter. They're going to be at your camp. What to expect, right? And what to expect when they're there. They're going to be there for about maybe half a day, right? They're going to show up, do an intake, look at some files, do an exit interview, and they're going to have some great information for you. So again, this is a little bit different of a visit than the next one that Nicole is going to cover. And I'm just going to I'm going to kick it over to Nicole to cover the next one, which are going to be those SAA, a different type of SAA reviews. Oh yes, they're also going to want to see a non-VA student as well. They're going to want to see somebody who's not receiving VA educational benefits. And just real quick, just their financial ledger and their unofficial transcript, not all the rest of it, right? Just going to kind of be a little simpler there, just to make sure that the veteran is being treated in the same manner as the other students at your campus. That's going to be uniform throughout everything we're going to talk about. All right. The animation is good. There you go, Nicole.
So for risk-based survey, you really only get these if usually only get them if they have been a change in, like if you were private, now you're going public, or public going private. You'll have to do them for 3 years in a row. Or if a veteran can't come in and kind of complained a little bit about something that is happening. It doesn't necessarily have to be about us. It could be about their campus. They're not like teaching right, stuff like that. That's just how it is. Because risk-based survey, they will want to watch a class being taught. This one is a little bit more in depth. They will ask for a lot more documents than what Josh talked about before. You'll also want to make sure that whoever does your financials it is available. You'll want to make sure that an admissions rep is available, and also you'll want to make sure financial aid, if you someone in financial aid department, and also marketing, if you have a separate marketing department that does all of the marketing for the campus, because they may have questions that you will not be able to answer, and you'll want to make sure that those people are available in order to answer those questions for the ones that you can't answer. They will give you a list ahead of time of students that they're going to want to look at, VA students, and the list depends on how many VA students you have at that time. And then your non-VA student is usually one. And then when they come to the campus, could be anywhere from a half day to a full day, depending on how many VA students they asked for. But they will also ask for more VA students and another non-VA student once they get to the campus. So I would recommend trying to get, as soon as you get this, trying to contact who needs to be contacted first. Let them know that they are coming to the campus and they may need to be available at this time period. And then I would start as soon as possible on these, because they're a little bit more time consuming than the supervisory visits. I'm trying to think what else. I think that's about it on that one.
Yeah, these are the risk-based surveys are nobody wants to get one, right? And it can be a number of reasons why you get them, and it doesn't mean that you've made a mistake, right? Again, I want to clarify this and reinforce what Nicole's saying here. It doesn't mean you've made an error. It just means that there has been, maybe you're a community college and graduation rates are, graduation rates are going to be low at community colleges, right? So that can contribute a risk-based survey. We have regional campuses at the Kent State system, and those function like community colleges, open enrollment. Graduation rates are different than our Kent campus. So that can contribute to a risk-based survey or review. It doesn't necessarily mean, although it can be linked to complaints, it can be. Yep. Those are going to more fall into the line of a total risk-based review. Yep. And again, there's going to be, on what we've talked about with the SAA supervisory visit and this risk-based review, these can still be up to 10 days on these. The total risk-based review, Nicole, if I'm not mistaken, that's 2 days, right?
Oh yeah, that's very short. They don't give you much time. You're stopping everything you're doing, and you're working on getting that completely done because they're coming to your campus fast. And those are usually the ones that have a lot of complaints will be your
yes,
total risk. If it's just a risk base is more or less like your tuition changed. When they got your catalog renewal, your tuition went up a certain amount of percent, so they have to do a risk-based survey. This one will also be like our college went from private public to private, so we've had 3 years for every campus. They had to do a risk-based survey for 3 years straight for every campus that we have. So that's a little bit different. But the total one is going to be more if people are complaining you're not certifying them correctly, or something happened at the campus where they're feeling harassed because they're a veteran. Stuff like that is going to be more your total risk-based survey, because they don't want you to be able to change anything. They want to let you know they're having it, and in 3 days they're there. They don't want anything fixed.
that's right. I mean, and I've heard. I was just at a symposium over the weekend into early in this week, and somebody talked to me about a total risk-based review they had at a community college on the second day of the term. So whereas with the SAA visits normally and the VA visits normally and St. George normally, they know when our peak times are, and they do really honestly try
Mhm.
and avoid. They see our calendars. They do try and avoid the opening of school. They do try and avoid certain peak times, right? They're going to try and avoid that. However, with the total risk-based review, they're coming, and they're coming in fast, and they're coming whenever they want to.
Mhm.
And then
Yep.
so that's how that is. Are we good on this one, Nicole, or any more
Yeah,
here?
I think yeah, we're good.
Cool. All right, take it away.
So for the VA compliance survey, this is a little bit different than the St. George's. I've had more VA compliance. I think I've only had one St. George. That's why Josh is going to talk about the St. George, because he has more St. George than VA. Um, this is going to be an all day, and it actually may be longer than what your all day is. So if you work 8 to 4 or 8 to 5, I have been in one where I'm here until 8 o'clock at night. Um, because they're looking at every VA student for the past, I think 5 years, 10 years, something like that. I can't remember exactly how far back they go. I just know that they go back pretty far. And they're looking at, is it 4 years?
Great. Yep.
Yeah. And it is intense. Um, you'll want to make sure that you have the same people available if they have any questions on things that you can't answer. Um, but this one is going to be a little bit more nitpicky. They're looking at everything. They're not just going to skim through it. A lot of times they're going to have a list of all of the students. A lot of times I'm no my VA people, they like to have the files beforehand. The only one that they do not have beforehand is the non-VA student, because they usually pick those. You don't have a choice. You send them an actual roster of every program that you offer, and they will choose a non-VA person per program. So depending on how many non-VA students you'll have, um, will be based by how many programs you offer at your that campus or at the college. Um, non-VA students, obviously, they aren't asking for everything. They're just asking for the two, because they really want to make sure that aren't charging VA students more than what we're charging non-VA students. But this one's a little bit more in depth. Um, they will, mine sat through a class to see how it's taught and like how it's all goes through and the students, everything. They may even want to talk to a student that isn't even VA, like as they're in the class. But this one, you will have to send out emails to all of your past and current VA students, letting them know that they're going to be on campus if they have any questions or concerns that they would like to talk to them about. It's not just the current, they want all of them for that 4 years. Um, and they do want a copy, like a copy say showing that you sent them those emails. They don't want you just saying, yep, I sent them. They actually want verification that they have been sent. But this one is like a risk-based survey, except for it's going to be more intense. So they're asking for a lot of the same things than what you would see. It's just going to be a lot more in depth and prepare to be here longer than your normal 8 hours if you have a lot of students that they're asking for.
Yeah, they can take a sample size on this. And by the way, well, just as an FYI, all these lists that you're seeing, these are you're literally seeing things pulled off of what we
Yep.
have received, right? These
Yep.
are SAA, VA, and eventually St. George lists. So we're not making these up. This is what is on the checklist. Somebody asked in the chat a little bit earlier, are you going to get these slides? Yep, you're going to get a recording and you're going to be able to get a copy of the slide deck as well for this. So you can examine these lovely slides afterwards. But this is what they are asking for. I mean, this is everything. And so we know we didn't just do this from memory. These are copied and pasted really from things that we have received directly from these entities that have come to our campuses. And the VA, when they arrive, they're going to pull a number of students, right, based upon your population of people you're certifying, not based
Yeah.
on your school population, people you're certifying. At my Kent campus, that's up. They can do a maximum of 35. So they pull 35 at the Kent campus, right? I'm sure, Nicole, you have some 35 pulls.
Yeah.
Yep.
Our online campus is a lot because that's a bigger list of students. So I think when we did the Sylvania/online, I had probably about 40 students that they had to pull.
Absolutely. Yep. That's kind of their max. And then but sometimes I have 10, right?
Yeah.
And it's very
Hmm.
quick and maybe they're there a half day, but if they pull 35 students, you're there for at least a day. They may schedule 2 days with you. So don't be
Hmm.
surprised if they stay in the area and then come back the following day for you. Anything else on that one, Nicole, to dig into?
So I see that there was a question about why a compliance survey and how often.
Mm,
Um,
great.
so before COVID, I think I got one like once every couple of years.
Yeah.
But after COVID, it waited a long time. Like I didn't have one for a very long time, and they just started doing them again. But I would say, I think I've had them like, well, because I have so many campuses, I've had one at least once a year, but it's usually a couple of years in between before they do another compliance survey. But they could do a surprise, not a surprise, but out of character or out of their realm if they have concern on coming to your campus.
Absolutely. Typically, their rule of thumb is 18 to 30 months, right?
Yeah.
From survey
Hmm.
to survey. And so that means, you could have one, and they can be denser. It means they could be sooner, right? You could have had one, it might have been 2 years, but the next one might be only be 18 months. So it can seem
Yeah.
like they can be piled up on top of one another. So 18 to 30 months, that's why we always say 2 years is typically, but if you have a number of campuses, you're constantly rotating. It feels like you have one all the time.
Correct. Yep.
I'm going to hop into St. George compliance surveys. Now, for you, those of you that do not know and are unfamiliar, St. George is a third party entity contracted by the VA to do these reviews. They're fantastic auditors themselves. I mean, they're really. I've had a lot of these. I've had a small amount of VA compliance, very small amount of VA compliance. We've had quite a few St. George compliance surveys, and that's whom we work with. Um, we're going to take a look at this here, and the lists are going to be the same. In fact, they're trying to make those. For a while, they were vastly different. St. George would ask for some things that the VA wasn't asking for, and vice versa. They have gotten on the same page. They have really gotten on the same page, and a lot of this is the same. One thing to remember with all of these things, that any of not the not the state visit, but with your really with your two federal based ones, your St. George and your VA visits, you'll upload all these materials into a portal, and they will give you a unique identifier as a school. And you'll be able to upload those into a portal, and paper copies should not be necessary. They might ask for them, but this should all be able to be uploaded into that portal. They want that significantly before they arrive. We'll talk about this in best practices, but the more prepared you are, the less time they're on your campus, and you really want them to not be on your campus for a very long time. So we're going to look at a couple things. I'm going to highlight one thing here. They're going to ask for so many of the same things, right? However, they tend to be ready when they come to the campus. They've reviewed the portal. Keep in mind, they're a private sector entity, so they have folks on the back end that review some of that stuff for the reviewer, right? They have a team that might have reviewed everything, put it in a spreadsheet for them, and they may only have to ask you. Let's say if they ask for a sample of 15 students, they're going to look at them all, but they may really only have 3 identified concerns coming in, and those concerns are identified because they are trying to move on to the next sample, right? If they have 2 schools, they might do 2 small schools in one day if they're fairly local. So they're kind of trying to move that model along. And they will, but they also work on the 18 to 30 months, and they are currently contracted with the VA again for the next fiscal year. So they will be coming around. Again, they're not VA employees, they're contracted. One of the things, they're going to ask for a current roster by program of all students. That is not just VA, that is not just your VA students or supported students. That is all students that they are going to ask for that for. So you're going to need that. They will ask for that unpaid roster for unpaid students. That's all students. And they're going to use that for just basically to look at and ensure that VA students and non-VA students are being treated the same. They're going to use that for some 8515 and 8515 compliance type information. And they're also going to use it to pick your, as Nicole stated, your non-VA student. They're going to use it at random. They're going to hit you with a student ID number. We're Banner School. They're going to hit me with a Banner ID number and say, pull this one. And there it is. And you pull that one, and they look at it, and those are usually no problem now. They're just looking to make sure everything looks the same, right? Looking at all the same things, though, looking at a lot of the same things that we have, kind of that we've looked at already. And again, another copy of the emails. It's just like having the VA. You do have to notify your students that they're on campus. I've never had a student want to talk to them, but if the option, no, the option is there. The option is there. And they do want to come to the facility. They don't do these bench audit or remote. The reason being they come to your facility is to make sure that this is a legitimate facility that you're operating. That is why they arrive on your campus. They can Google map it, they can look around, they can do whatever and drive around it, but they want to look in, they want to make sure people are in classes, they want to make sure that you're running a legitimate institution. And so that's one of the reasons they come to the campus. And let's just get into best practices. This is really my favorite part here. Yeah, I'll just start off here and start early. So as soon as you get the notification, whatever that is, 10 business days, 15, again, business days. This is business days, 10 business days, 15 business days, whatever you get, whatever they give you. And sometimes they can help you. They can be your friend here. They can negotiate with you a little bit and move dates around a little bit and make sure they don't give you the sample too early. But from the point in time they give you the sample, and in auditing terms, a sample is your list of students by Social Security number. As soon as they give you that, start. Don't let this sit there. Do not let this start on this. There is a lot of moving parts, and you're going to have to start on this. You're going to have to bring a lot of people in. And this, Nicole's going to cover the second kind of point here, but you got to get people on this early because this is a big lift at times.
make sure you're sending emails to campuses and management team as soon as you get that email, because I know trying to get stuff from your CFO because that's who does all your taxes. He don't care that you're asking for that. So you want to make sure that you send it out to them as soon as possible so that they know that they have this many days to get it to you. And I always shorten it. So if I have 10 days, I'm telling him I have 9 days so that I get it and I have that one extra day to make sure I have everything before I send it out. Um, but yeah, so as soon as I get that email, and like he was saying, start early. A lot of them will call you and say, "Hey, we're coming to your campus. Do these days work great for you?" If not, let them know. I had a surgery scheduled, and I think it was St. George wanted to come out. I said I will be out of the campus for that week. Is there another time? And they're like, yep, no problem. But that was before I actually got all the documents. Once they send those documents, it's a little harder to reschedule unless it's an emergency. But they usually do reach out to you beforehand saying, hey, we're planning on coming to your campus with these days work. And then you just be honest with them. They're going to work with you.
Absolutely. And they will, and they want to, because they want you to be ready, because they want to spend as little bit of time there as possible as well,
Yep.
honestly.
Yeah. Mhm.
Pre-auditing your own files. We do this, and this is key. This is really key. We always call it, I always tell my team, being audit ready, right? The VA uses other terms, and I said that already, compliance surveys and reviews and those things. But it functions like an audit. And boy, if it's a risk-based survey, it functions and feels very much like an audit. But look at your files ahead of time. Throughout the year, spot check them. Make sure that that you're catching those drops and ads. Make sure that your tuition and fees are accurate, right? Make sure you're getting those folks in there, that second certification within 30 days. And make sure you have all your documentation necessary. And as Nicole said, also add everything to calendars. Add everything to calendars as well. Let your people know that this is coming, right? Let your financial, because listen, think of the people that have to be there. Maybe your supervisor, your upline is going to want to be there for the exit or enter or exit interview, right? So my vice president's going to want to be there. When he talks to me, you're going to have the bursar, registrar, financial aid, admissions, marketing. All of those folks are going to have to pull pieces of this information for you. And they should. This isn't just you being audited. Keep in mind, I'm going to take some of this burden off of you. This isn't you being audited, it's the institution. It's the institution. And you're handle the VA portion, and you're going to ultimately organize this and be the one sitting there in the seat. But you're going to gather those people, and they need to help you with those things. To get this is because this is required. You can't. We can't. You can't tell the VA no here.
Yeah. I add everything to a calendar, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's a task or whether it is when they're coming. I make sure I have all docs by this date. I kind of add it to your calendar. This way you don't forget. So the minute I get that email, I'm adding what day they're coming and what time. Then I'm adding, okay, I want to make sure that I have work this portion of it this day or this week or, however you want to do it. I put on my calendar, reach out to all the management team or that I still haven't received the items I need yet. That way you're not forgetting anything. And the day that you need to send everything out, you're like, oh my goodness, I didn't get everything. Now it's trying to go after that management team to get all of those docs. And you're low on the totem pole, or they're gonna get mad at you because you're like, I need it now.
Yes.
So I always just add calendar. I just be like, okay, day 2, this is what I'm doing. 5 days in, if it's a 10-day, I have 10 days, 5 days in, I'm gonna reach out to all my management team. Hey, just a FYI, I need those documents by this date, just kind of a reminder. So
Absolutely. And getting things in the portal early. The quicker that the reviewers can have that information, the less time they're going to have that done before they arrive at your campus. There are some schools of thought that giving it to them too early, it gives them time to look at it, and they're going to find more things. Let me let you in on a secret. They're going to look at it anyway. They're going to spend the time they need looking at it, whether that's in your face looking at it at your campus or whether it's ahead of time. You get it to them early so they can have it reviewed and show up and have the most easy experience. And we really also touched on the next 2 points, I think, Nicole, about
Oh
communication.
yeah.
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 Gathering your people, get your squad together, get your financial aid and registrar, bursar, and admissions people and people together around you to be ready. If you need to bring it through external audit, if you have that requirement on your campus, make sure they know as well. That's another one. But and last one I put on here, and before we go to the last one, where Nicole, you'll cover some lessons learned there, is tone is met with tone. And what I mean is, again, don't take this personal. This isn't personal. Quote The Godfather, it's just business. And and this is the business we've chosen, right? And so if you are polite and you are responsive and you ask questions and you are ready to, and you're helpful through this process, they're going to be willing. They're going to be very willing to assist you throughout this whole time. If things are late, if you're resistant to the process, you really don't have an option for it, right? And so, so that is tone being met with tone. That's kind of what I meant there. And then we're going to hop right into lessons learned.
So when I first took over, I was not trained. I was just like, here you go. So I did not send out emails to the students. Now, I didn't get like yelled at once they got everything because I tended to give them stuff early. Like, hey, you forgot the emails. I was like, oh, okay. So then I did that, sent the emails. They're they're pretty lax if you forget something because they give you a lot of stuff that you need to get for a lot of them. So things can be missed. It's not a big deal. They're just gonna be like, hey, I don't see this. Is there a way that you can send it to me? And then that's the good thing about having it to them early is because now they're catching if you forgot to give something to them. Remain calm. It's not your fault. Um, if they find something, it isn't. A lot of times what they do find is they find that you like for me it was a lot of the SCOs that were no longer here. Why
Mm-hmm.
did you certify late? I have no clue. I wasn't here. Let me look. So I would look to see if there was notes on why the student certified late. So what I do is if I have to certify late because I don't have all documents before the student starts, I put notes in EM where it says notes. So that way it's in there. I don't have to try and remember 2 years from now why I certified a student late. It's in that cert. And we just pull up that cert together and they look at it like, oh, okay, now I see why you certified that student late. Um, don't take it personally if they come back and like they have something that they find. Um, just as a teaching moment. Um, I was told we didn't have to do the second cert for chapter 33 because a lot of our programs are less than a month long. So that is not right. You have to certify them a second cert no matter what. So I didn't take it personally. I was just like, oh, well, I was told one way from one auditor, and then their auditor now tell me I have to do it. So it's just take it as a teaching moment. I mean, they're not mad about it because what they're going to do is they're going to now look at your stuff, even without you knowing, and be like, okay, yep, she's doing what, and that may actually make you have a risk-based survey if a compliance person finds that you weren't certifying doing the second cert. That may then have you do a risk-based survey shortly afterwards, so that way then the SAA can say, yep, she is now certifying twice. So it's just a teaching moment. You can't take anything personally.
Yes, absolutely. And remain calm. You're not going to lose your, I mean, very few schools lose their ability to certify their programs, right? I know that's the theory that, boy, I'm going to get fired. I'm going to lose my job. Oh my gosh, we're not going to be able to certify students. It has to be intentional errors, things that
Hmm.
are found to typically be intentional and pervasive. They're also looking for things like fraud and those things. I mean, unintentional errors occur. This is data entry. This is manual data entry, which is a whole nother presentation we could have a conversation about. But this is manual data entry, and there are errors there, and they know that. And common errors are, again, not reporting that second cert within 30 days, right? And there are major, there are different tiers of errors. There are minor findings and more major findings. More major ones occur around money, right?
Hmm.
Never noting a student dropped classes. That's pretty
Well,
serious.
major one also could be if you enroll and take an application on the same day.
Correct. Yep.
But that really, you didn't do that. That would be your admissions reps. So, like I said, right there, it's not your fault. They may not have realized that it was a VA student because the person didn't tell them they were getting VA benefits. So, you just have to prove, hey, they never told admissions. We didn't find out until they had already sat in their first class that they wanted to take VA benefits. So, as long as you have proof to show why those two things occurred, you'll be okay.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. Well, let's get into some questions here. And I think we already have we have one in the Q&A. I still don't understand why there are different types of audits, especially the VA versus St. George. Gotcha. I can field that one. Um, Basically, well, there shouldn't have been all along. The types of reviews should have been the same between the VA and St. George, right? They should have had the exact same checklist, but they didn't, and that required some communication on their part. And the reason why is that the St. George helps the VA handle the volume. The VA doesn't necessarily have that capacity to review all of these, right? So they've had to hire that third party vendor to help them do this. And then they've been trained by the VA, and as they've gone on, this has been years that this has gone on now.
Hmm.
They've gotten a lot better, and so it's a lot different. Somebody asked why the compliance survey and how often. I think we answered that one. Uh, every 18 to 30 months, they can
Hmm.
come. The recording will be available to save as a reference. Yep. Yep. And absolutely. We're going to have the slide deck and this recording. Promise. We'll get that out to you next week. We'll have that to you. I promise. We'll get that out there. All right. Perfect.
About why we have multiple different things. So your
Sorry.
supervisory and your risk base, your SAA is going to do those. So that's your state that helps with the VA. Those are the ones that are going to do those too. Your ones from the VA compliance and St. George, that is actually the federal VA that is doing those ones. So it may happen that you have a risk base in a compliance survey all within 2 months. And it's just because two different entities are doing it versus state and federal. So that's the difference between those.
And they do try and coordinate. I know the state
Yeah.
approving agencies and St. George and the VA do try and
Mhm.
coordinate. So they're not,
Yeah.
again, watching, again, unless it's a total risk based review.
Yes.
It's kind of, that kind of, here we come, 48 hours. They're going to try and work with you. They're going to really try and work with you. Let's see one in the QAA. What triggers an SAA audit, or is the timing standard for those, or is it state dictated? That's a great question, and that is really up to the SAA when. Um, if it's a risk-based review, again, what can trigger a state approving agency risk-based review? So with some of the things Nicole covered, graduation rates, moving from a private to maybe moving from a private to a public or vice versa. It's new school certifying officials, right? Let's say you have a massive amount of turnover and there's new school certifying officials. They want to come up and make sure they do training for you. I mean, the state approving agency is going to come up and they're going to train. They're going to work with you on some things in your process to where they don't leave you hanging as a new
Mhm.
SCO out there. So that happened, 20 years ago when I happened. I got a state approving agency visit. I about passed out, but they were there to train me and help me out.
You'll get another one if, like I said, your catalog, when you turn in your catalog for a renewal and your tuition jumped really a lot, based on what they look at, then that is going to trigger a risk-based survey.
Yep, absolutely. And in the a great question in the Q&A, and this is like again at this symposium this weekend, and we covered some of this. Is it normal for them not to inform you during the entrance briefing that is a risk-based survey? And then there's part two. Also, what do you recommend if you never get your results from that survey? I'm going to go number one. No, that is not normal. In the email, the initial email communication you get from them, it indicates risk-based survey in that email, or it should. And also during every exit and entrance interview, they have to give you those. You need an entrance and an exit interview, which gives you time for them time to explain the ground rules, you time at the end to either refute things or to discuss, to kind of talk about the findings. That has to be discussed, and that needs to be in the email. So that is not normal. And also, what do you recommend if you never get your results from that survey? Yeah,
I would reach out to them.
Oh,
Reach
100%.
out who was the person that came in and did your risk-based survey. I would definitely reach out to them, letting them know that you never received it, because sometimes I get mine twice. I'll get them from the person who did the risk-based,
Yes.
and then I'll get one from the VA,
Right.
the
Yes.
ELR. So you should be getting it multiple times.
Yeah, that's not yeah, that's not somehow it doesn't mean that they can't take some time to get some results back to you, but in the exit they should tell you.
Yeah.
Okay, this is going to take us a month to get you back these results or whatever. Okay,
Because they have a time limit too.
they
They
do.
have a time limit that they have to have everything in. So,
Yeah, yep. So they need, yeah, we reach out. Please reach out to if it's St. George, reach out to St. George. If it was an SAA risk-based, reach out. Whomever it was, reach out to that entity and that auditor specifically.
yeah.
Anything else? We have a couple more, certainly a couple more minutes for some Q&A if there's any other burning questions. But again, the slide deck and the recording will be sent out. Please share it widely, yeah, please share that widely, and we will it's there for you, right?
Right.
All right. Seeing none. Um, I'm going to close us out. But again, thank you for attending. Um, thank you, Nicole,
You're welcome.
for co-presenting here. And again, we will get this out to you in the next couple days. So we hope this was really helpful. And sincerely, thank you for joining us. And we'll see you at the next time.